Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Hare Krishna. Welcome. This is Bhagavad-gita. Here it is, because we are reading Bhagavad-gita as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And my name is Lavanga Latika. We are filming in the actual outdoors today in Haribolsta. So there might be some difference of sound. We have come to the 4th chapter. We've been in the 4th chapter for a while. Today we are reading text 29, Transcendental Knowledge. Apane juvati pranang prane panang tatapare paranapanagati rudva paranayama parayanaha apare niyatahara paranan paraneshu juvati. Still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. So this sounds a little bit mysterious, we have to admit. Of course, Krishna is here giving an overview over different processes and kind of coming back to the fact that yajna, sacrifice, is the common denominator in all of them, but in kind of very different ways. So prana comes back here, prana, the air, apana, the other air, so many airs. And we hear about this a little bit in the yoga processes, but the Vedic knowledge takes these things into account all the time, but we think more about them in some specific yoga processes than in others. I will read the purport. The system of yoga for controlling the breathing process is called pranayama, and in the beginning it is practiced in the hatha yoga system through different sitting postures. All of these processes are recommended for controlling the senses and for advancement in spiritual realization. This practice involves controlling the airs within the body so as to reverse the direction of their passage. The apana air goes downward and the prana air goes up. The pranayama yogi practices breathing in the opposite way until the currents are neutralized into puraka, equilibrium. Offering the exhaled breath into the inhaled breath is called rechaka. When both air currents are completely stopped, one is said to be in kumbhaka yoga. By practice of kumbhaka yoga, one can increase the duration of life for perfection in spiritual realization. The intelligent yogi is interested in attaining perfection in one life without waiting for the next. For by practicing kumbhaka yoga, the yogis increase the duration of life by many, many years. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, automatically becomes the controller of the senses. So here we are describing the process that Krishna doesn't actually recommend. But it's good to have some perspective, because sometimes people come and look at us, oh, you Hare Krishna, it looks very difficult, your life. And then we're saying, what's so difficult? We're chanting God's names, we're taking prasadam, we're living a quite wonderful life in the service of the Lord. Well, we have some dogs in the background. They may not be chanting Krishna's names, but what do I know? I don't know their language. We don't know so many things, but we know that this other yoga process is only for very exceptional people, and even for those people it's very difficult. Even analyzing the different kind of breaths and offering them into each other, a yogi tries to prolong his life because this process is very difficult. So with the breathing, each breath is measured out, and when you run out of breath, that's when you die. Unless you died of something else before. So by prolonging the intervals between the breaths, the frequency of your breathing, then that body will last longer because it's counted in breaths, not in years. And for this process, we really, really need that. But Krishna, of course, shows here this is not what he's telling Arjuna to do. He doesn't tell Arjuna to do that. He's just indicating that all this yoga process is about an offering. You give something up to something higher. And ultimately, the thing we really want to give up is the idea that I am this body, and when I put things in this body, I'm happy. So, there is food and drink, and there is music, and there is so many sensations that give us pleasure. They don't give us happiness. And even when we are happy, they don't give us that satisfaction that comes from fulfilling our real identity, who we really are. So therefore now in the purport, Prabhupada goes back to the Krishna conscious person, who's always situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, automatically becomes the controller of the senses. His senses, being always engaged in the service of Krishna, have no chance of becoming otherwise engaged. So at the end of life, he's naturally transferred to the transcendental plane of Lord Krishna. Consequently, he makes no attempt to increase his longevity, as this yogi was doing, because you're doing your yoga in this life, you know what you're doing. If you die and you're born again and you're in a new body, there's every chance to get sidetracked. We tend to forget everything. When we wake up in that new baby body, we don't really remember our past. Of course, there are some jokes. I heard this really nice joke. Can I tell a joke in the middle? I will do that. There is this little child walking with his father and asking his father, "Do you believe in reincarnation?" And the father says, "No, I don't believe in reincarnation." A little child says, "Yeah, when I was your age, I also didn't believe in reincarnation." But in general, a little child does not remember his past life, when he was that age of the father. It makes for a good joke, though. So the yogi, he wants to finish in this life. A Krishna conscious yogi, a person who practices bhakti yoga, does not put so much focus on these external things. How do we breathe? How long do we live? We don't know. But we do know one thing, and that is, I'm not this body. I'm the eternal spirit soul within the body. And this human form of life is really meant to realize that. We are really given that opportunity. So I would suggest to take some time out of our busy lives to actually focus on that self-realization. And because when we hear the description of these other processes, they come with some amount of difficulty. And therefore we recommend the easiest process, Krishna consciousness, because it's easy, because it's natural. It's not entirely easy, of course. You still have to, put your heart in it, put your activities in it. But it's quite natural, because we have the tendency to have interests, to have desires, to do something with our senses, with our intelligence. And all of that can be easily channeled towards Krishna. And of course it needs some practice. We need to kind of maybe at least accept the philosophy behind it, take up some basic practices. But when we do that, we gain some momentum. It becomes like a natural thing to do. So we continue. He is at once raised to the platform of liberation, as stated in Bhagavad-gita 14:26. Mam chayovya bicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitya itan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in unalloyed devotion and service to the Lord transcends the modes of material nature and is immediately elevated to the spiritual platform. So a Krishna conscious person begins from the transcendental stage, and he's constantly in that consciousness. Therefore, there is no falling down, and ultimately he enters into the abode of the Lord without delay. The practice of reduced eating is automatically done when one eats only Krishna prasadam, or food which is offered to the Lord, first. Reducing the eating process is very helpful in the matter of sense control, and without sense control there is no possibility of getting out of the material entanglement. So we're in the fourth chapter, and if we have been following Bhagavad-gita so far, it's kind of like we have accepted the point that we want to control the senses because we are different from the senses. We want to come to the point of spiritual realization, and we're deepening that understanding, and we're getting, a better perspective from different angles. So yes, there is that yoga process where the breathing control is very prominent, and Krishna describes it, but it's not what he recommends. In general, that is not what he recommends for us in this age. I will read one more text 30. Sarvepyete yagya vido yagya kshapita kalmasaha yagya shishtamrita bhuyo yanti brahma sanatanam. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the result of sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. So it's kind of poetic, but it's also true. When we look around us, there's nothing eternal. We're sitting here outside and the day is winding down. The light is winding down, the sounds are winding down, and we know in a while it's going to be night, then it's night for a while, then it's going to be day. And I was just this week looking at some old photos where my parents are pushing me in a pram, and I'm reflecting on that and realizing the age my mother is on that picture, that's the age my daughter is now. So as soon as you become accustomed to one age or one situation or one type of atmosphere, it changes, because that's how time works. But that eternal atmosphere that we are all secretly longing for, even when we don't remember it. So in this world, of course, we like some change because it makes things enjoyable, it makes things dynamic. But it is really painful when things change out of recognitions, and when we lose the things that we love, the persons we love, and so on. So therefore, that eternal atmosphere is good news for us. So if we don't know about it, we learn about it. And if we already know about it, we want to understand if we belong there, how we belong there, and how we can access that stage of being. Purport. From the foregoing explanation of different types of sacrifice, namely sacrifice of one's possessions, study of the Vedas or philosophical doctrines, and performance of the yoga system, it is found that the common aim of all is to control the senses. Sense gratification is the root cause of material existence. Therefore, unless and until one is situated on a platform apart from sense gratification, there is no chance of being elevated to the eternal platform of full knowledge, full bliss, and full life. This platform is in the eternal atmosphere or Brahman atmosphere. All the above-mentioned sacrifices help one to become cleansed of the sinful reactions of material existence. By this advancement in life, not only does one become happy and opulent in this life, but also at the end, he enters into the eternal kingdom of God, either merging into the impersonal Brahman or associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So there are some terms. We want to become cleansed of sinful reactions. It sounds a little drastic, but basically what it means is every action we do in this world has a return, and every action that is not, part of our spiritual plan, part of our yagya, part of our spiritual advancement, creates some disturbance. We have these examples that come up sometimes when you hear if there's a butterfly fluttering in the one end of the world, maybe there will be a tornado on the other end of the world. It's difficult to exactly trace these effects, but we carry them with us, because for every good thing we do, for every neutral, necessary thing we'll do, there are so many small side things where we don't even notice that we hurt someone, and the big structural problems where we live in a world where we think it's completely normal to have a whole industry killing other beings just in order to eat. There is a whole structure making sure that we can live a very nice, easy, cheap life based on the cheap labor of people in other parts of the world. And obviously, we are going to have to meet the consequences of our activities. And the reason we continue with these activities, that is on this... like, why do we do things? Why do we do anything? So many things we may not be completely aware. We may realize if I want to eat, I have to cook. If I want to have something to cook, I have to work. Some things we know. If I love my children, I give them gifts. Easy things to understand. But the whole basis of us being in this world is based on that idea. We had some desire to create this illusion. where Krishna is not in the picture. And there we can try to enjoy and control separate from him. And that mostly comes out in the form of sense gratification, sense enjoyment, because being in this body, we believe we are this body. Believing we are this body, it becomes understood that we want to enjoy as much as possible. And then it just keeps rolling. Activities, reactions, they hold us here, they bind us here. So controlling the senses in many yoga processes is a little bit of a difficult artificial process. But in Krishna consciousness, at a certain point, in the beginning it might be a little bit of a challenge because we're not used to it, we're new to it. But gradually it becomes a natural part of our life where we can utilize all our propensities in Krishna's service. And by practicing these spiritual activities of meditation on Krishna's holy name, Sankirtan, either individually or singing in a group, and hearing about Krishna from scriptures like Bhagavad-gita, serving Krishna in the temple, and spreading the knowledge of Krishna outside, these activities we can immediately engage in, and they hold us up on a spiritual platform. And therefore, all these things that sound very difficult, they become, if not easy, at least quite simple and uncomplicated, and they help us to have a good life here and now, actually. It is a good life here and now. But more than that, we are putting our feet on that path that is not binding us here, but it's opening the door to that eternal atmosphere of the spiritual world. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.